My name is Anne Bordeleau. I'm the O'Donovan Director at the School of Architecture. And I'd like to say a few words about our programs today. First, maybe just something about the particularities of the program that we have here at Waterloo Architecture, and one that is definitely unique in Canada and beyond Canada. And in fact, this first slide actually has a quote from Kenneth Frantham, who's Ware Professor of Architecture at Columbia University, saying that there's something unique that's occurring at Waterloo Architecture, an unparalleled experiment in architectural education that was not happening anywhere else in Canada, nor was it happening anywhere else in North America as far as he could see. Now, to be fully transparent, I have to say that this is something that he did say on the occasion of the award of an honorary doctorate at the University of Waterloo in 1995. So he did have to say something nice. But he's not the only one to have noted what's happening at Waterloo Architecture. And our reputation goes well beyond what he was noticing, but it's also something that has been acknowledged since. It's really the fact that it's an inspiring place to study and create is something that has been picked up by a number of reviews. So recently it was ranked as a leading program in architecture in Canada. And it was in 2012, one of the only school of architecture in Canada to be ranked by Azure within the top 5 of 135 schools in North America. And these other schools that made the top 5 in alphabetical order are Columbia, Cornell, Harvard, SIAC, and Waterloo. It was also one of 29 programs, graduate programs, that was included in the worldwide survey of masterclass. And when Domus, which is an Italian publication, did a review of the top 100 European 100 schools of architecture in 2017, they included Waterloo Architecture as one of 7 non-European schools that was included in the survey. So there's a great reputation at Waterloo Architecture. And you know that when you complete your education in architecture with us, then you are set to be successful in your professional life, or whatever that it is that you determine to do beyond this. So if you might go and do in design and related fields, you might choose to continue in further education. Whatever you choose to do, there's really great education that sets you up for success in your future endeavors. But let me tell you a bit more about what are these characteristics of this program. What is it that people are noticing what's happening at Waterloo Architecture? So that what I'll do over the next 25 minutes or so is just to run through the program, the places where you're going to be taught, and the people, so the people that will be accompanying you over your education at Waterloo Architecture. So let's start with the program. The program is, what we offer is 2 consecutive programs that lead to a professional MArch degree or master's degree in architecture. So what you begin with is the Bachelor of Architectural Studies, which is the program that you are applying to right now. It's a 4-year honors, fully cooperative degree, and pre-professional, so the first step of a 2-step professional degree. Each student is required to complete a minimum of 20 months of cooperative education. So the program takes 5 years to complete, 5 years to complete. It also means that by the time you graduate, you have nearly 2 years of experience working in different practices, that you get a chance to also understand what kind of work you would like to do once you become an architect. This then is followed by the Masters of Architecture, which is a professional degree, and that requires a minimum of 12 months following the Bachelor of Architectural Studies. The professional degree is an enriched professional program that is based on a student-initiated independent research and design thesis. Now, the entry into the Bachelor of Architectural Studies is quite competitive, but really our commitment is that once we've selected, sent out offers, once we have our students, we keep them, we make sure they succeed in the program, and then we also grant you automatic admissions into the graduate program should you maintain good standing in the undergraduate degree program. And then, of course, this leads to the professional licensure, which is something that it's an accredited degree. So the Canadian Architectural and Certification Board recognizes this degree, and then it leads to the profession of architect. Now, in terms of what happens when you come and study at Waterloo Architecture, the best way of maybe presenting the curriculum is to look at these 5 streams. So design, cultural history and theory, visual and digital media, technology and environment, as well as urbanism and landscape. And I'll just go and say a few words about each one of these streams one by one. So architecture school at Waterloo really revolves around the design studio. This is where students work on projects that would go from increasing complexity from the very beginning of first year. So we start design from day one. And the first day you are granted a space in the studios. You have each your very large table, you get your studio kit, and you are assigned a studio project that may in that first term be something like a small unit, a housing unit for single family or even a single person, but that will move through maybe multiple units, a cultural projects, a library, a school, to maybe a tall building in urban context or landscape projects. So the complexity increases from year to year. And we support you through every step of the way. So these gives you sort of images of interactions when you work on studio projects that could be in the studio. So the image on the right is really a student talking to a faculty member. Studio ratios are really 1 to 15, 1 faculty to 15 students. A lot of one-to-one conversations. There's 2 days where we touch base with you individually or as you work with groups. But there's also great peer-to-peer learning, and the studio instruction is as much what you will learn from a faculty member as you might learn from a teaching assistant, which would be a graduate student, or learn from the student who's sitting beside you as you exchange it on your projects and as you progress. So the culminating project of the undergraduate studies is really a comprehensive building design. So you design the foundations, the siting, the building envelope, the structures, everything about your building, and you're ready to do this. You're like about to step into work, into the office. But we don't expect you to know anything about architecture when you start the program. We'll teach you that and we'll support you through every step of the way. Design is also something that happens outside of the design studio. So here I'm showing a couple of projects, like a chair project that is part of a structure course where you need to design it and make sure that you can sit on it and understand why you can or cannot, why it fails, if it does fail. Or small pavilions that are built, whether here in the sort of the backyard on the riverside, or landscape installations. Or in recent years, we've also been doing design-build projects with the Six Nations of the Grand River Reserve or the Mississaugas of the Credit, where we've recently built a powwow structure on their reserve. So these collaborations where we are really starting to have an impact in the community, and students are the ones with the hammers and nails and building these structures for within the region or the community. The second and also very foundational aspects of the program is cultural history. Culture is really the keystone or a keystone of the curriculum. Architecture we see as a humanistic discipline and a field of cultural speculation. And I think these are some of the things that Kenneth Franton was noticing when you looked at Waterloo Architecture, this Ware professor that said that there was an amazing program, unprecedented in terms of what was happening at Waterloo Architecture in relation to what was happening in the rest of Canada or the United States. So we really place reading, writing, and critical thinking as something that will run across the curriculum in cultural history classes, but in urban design, in landscape classes, everywhere we ask you to think critically, which is something that then employers really appreciate from Waterloo students. Students are exposed to works of history, philosophy, literature, and the arts. They learn about architecture, urbanism, and landscape within a really broad cultural context, within a really broad global context. This is really something that enriches their understanding of the evolution of contemporary work. So we work to look at things historically, but also across multiple cultures. So cultural history, again, is something that happens in classes, but in history classes, but that you will also take in terms of different projects, looking at precedents. Cultural history is also one of the reasons why we have a permanent location in Rome. We take students out of Cambridge to explore different cultures there in Rome, but also through co-op placements internationally. And it's something that will inform what students decide to study when they're asked to pick their own topic as graduate students. And this will take them even further. So here I'm showing a project from a student who looked at foundations from an indigenous perspective with the Vantat community in Old Crow, but in relation to environmental issues, so looking at permafrost here and just trying to understand how you adapt technology to a specific context. Other students will look at issues in Japan, China, Africa, South America. They'll take their knowledge and apply it to any place globally. So the third stream is visual and digital media. And of course, this is an area that is changing very rapidly. And at Waterloo Architecture, we've made a very clear commitment to make sure that we are really shaping and growing the curriculum and our facilities in relation to the shifting landscape of new technologies. So here again, we don't expect you to know very much about what these technologies are before you apply to the program. But certainly once you're into the program, we'll make sure you get introduced to all of these new ways of thinking, fabricating, drawing, learning, or like actually interacting with the built environment. So whether that's gathering data to understand the development of cities and using geographic information systems to do so, or learning to use a laser cutter, a software that will enable you to use 3D printers. And here you see students making use of a robotic arm to build a structure. Another student that's looking at a numerically controlled router to do a site model. And these are all things that you will get to learn in the studio, in the workshop, in the fabrication lab, and with all of the support from our staff, but also students. So visual and digital media, as it says, includes representation from all modes of representation, so visual as well as material, and it may go from data gathering, digital interface, as well as actually material explorations. And the work on the right here is 3D printed clay and explorations through that material. The other stream is technology and environment, and then we, of course, at Waterloo, we are part of the Faculty of Engineering, and which is one of the top engineering schools in the country. So we have to excel at providing in-depth study of the science and technology of construction. So we take that very seriously. We have amazing professors that are doing research on here the use of diagrid structures all over the world, that are teaching courses that will bridge environmental design to technology, and also focus on design within the landscape. So as we're all aware, environmental issues are becoming increasingly important for the future of architectural education, for the future of society, in fact, and we have those at the core of the education at Waterloo. Our curriculum has been rated the greenest architectural curriculum in Canada. There are many places where students learn about environmental issues. This includes learning about sustainable design, ecosystem theory, urban metabolism, alternative energy systems, urban agriculture, or new forms of responsive architecture. We have students that are also very involved in sustainability. There's a sustainability collective. So all of this really starts to inform the curriculum, the materials that we use, our awareness of where materials are extracted, and the impact on the landscape. So these are some of the projects and how students then will take that, and that might inform a graduate research project. So here's someone looking about water purification in swamplands and trying to look at some of the systems that might be used. Or another students looking at how we can interact better with birds, and whether there's a kind of like a system that would enable a facade to respond to changing environmental conditions. Another project here is faculty research looking at the characteristics of wood that actually will expand as it is responding to a more humidity, or will contract as it dries, and using that to have louvers that will open and close depending on variable humidity within the environment. So looking at the material intelligence as well as looking at other ways of integrating technology and sensors, or other means of responding to this critical issue that the environment represents today. Finally, there's urbanism and landscape, and this is introducing students to these complex questions that operate at much larger frameworks, so at the scale of the territory. So looking at waterfronts, remediating our access to remediating lands, or altering ways in which we interface with the rivers in our cities, or looking at city and its transformation. We're in a very rapidly urbanizing world. So what does that mean? How do we look at projects that maybe can introduce students to, on the one hand, understanding densification, how that relates to urban infrastructure, but maybe also access. So how do we make sure that what we build become accessible to everyone, irrespective of socioeconomic background? Is there a way in which we can think of our cities in a way that's much more accessible and inclusive for all? So these are essentially the range of topics that you would get introduced to every term. So every term you would likely have a course in studio, cultural history, visual and cultural media, looking at urbanism and landscape, as well as technology and the environment. And this is something that we can start to be creative with. So here I'm showing finally a project by one of our graduate students who looked at a very readily, like an available material during winter in Edmonton that is very cheap, snow, and how you can pack snow to create really interesting temporary winter public spaces. And his project was recognized with an award of excellence from the Edmonton Urban Design Award. So this is a program. And now I'll say a few things about the places. As you know, we're located here in the region of Waterloo, but our building is in Cambridge. So we have this building in Cambridge. We also have a Rome location where we have a satellite campus. And students go all over the world because of cooperative education. So we really pride ourselves as being a global academy because of all of the places that students get to go throughout their education, including Rome, but one that is rooted in the community. So we have a wonderful campus in Rome. Wonderful campus in Cambridge as well. This is an old silk mill. It was a historic building that's sited right along the Grand River in the core of Galt, which is one of the community that forms the city of Cambridge. And about 15 years ago, we moved to this location and decided to go with adaptive reuse to kind of infuse a second life in this building. And it has worked in amazing ways for us. The light is fantastic. The spaces are great. The students here, you see them gathered in the atrium. The studio space have all windows facing the river. We have review spaces. So this is really a great building that has all of the equipment that you need today. So the cutting edge equipment in terms of technology, but in this historic building, just to show that we can start to adapt some of these constructions to fill the needs of the future. So it was completely redesigned, and now this is where most of our students are located when they are in Cambridge. We also have a satellite campus in Rome. And the Rome program is probably one of the highlights of our undergraduate degree. It happens in fourth year, where all of our 75 students are relocated to Rome for a fall term, and where all of their courses are offered in this building that you see here on Piazza Santa Maria in Trastevere, which is at the very core of Rome. And we're one of the only North American programs that has the facilities that can actually welcome the full cohort of our students. And in order to also make this program really accessible to all of our students, where prior to the Rome term, there's an 8-month cooperative work terms, so that students really have the time to, be in a very good financial situation so that they can all afford to go away and spend this amazing term in Rome. During the Rome term, students will learn from the city. In fact, we say there's a sketchbook and learn from what you see around you, learn from the design of good public spaces. But we also travel to the north to look at some of the sites of the Renaissance and all the way to, some of the most contemporary projects that would be exhibited at the Venice Biennale. And then they travel to the south to go back into history and look at Greek and Roman examples from antiquity. Rome program has been active for 40 years. We just celebrated our 40th anniversary this past year, and we intend on continue for at least another 40. We also have cooperative education that takes students all over the world, as I was saying. In architecture, it's pretty impressive that maybe 35 to 45% of the job placement are global, outside of Canada. And this speaks to the amazing network that the students have been building in the school, and the university has been building internationally in terms of where they have worked, and the fact that these employers want more Waterloo architecture students to come and work for them now. So students work in really top firms globally, OMA, Perrault, Architect, Triexen, Atelier Jean Nouvel. I'm not going to name them all, but these are very well-established and recognized firms globally, but also there's some top firms in Toronto that sometimes only hire Waterloo architecture students. So as I mentioned earlier, the Bachelor of Architectural Study program is 100% co-op. So if you're in the program, you have to be a cooperative, you have to do co-op terms. The co-op work terms begin in second year, so you have 3 academic terms before you send on your first co-op. That means you're quite ready to go. We make sure that you have a lot of knowledge that will make you relevant, and then a good contributor to whichever office you end up landing a job in. So you won't only just be doing photocopies, and you feel very ready to actually contribute to the life and the work of that office. After that time, co-op terms alternate every 4 months. So 1 term in the school setting and 1 term working, except all the way to 3rd year, as I said, where there's an 8-month co-op term, to make sure that you're ready to then go to Rome and for your first term of your 4th year of study. So we have a really good system at Waterloo, the University of Waterloo, that sets students up for employment opportunities. But a lot of architecture students also find jobs on their own, and then you have the opportunity to go with these 2 systems in parallel and choose the job that you prefer, when you're given the ability to actually then make the final decision on your job placement. Employment stands nearly at 100%, and about 90% of these positions are with architectural practices. They're close to 400 placements every year. Some, 40% of these jobs are outside of Canada in 45 different cities across 5 continents. The total income was something like $3 million. I don't quite know what that means, except for it means that students earn as they learn. I think it's something that parents like to hear. But I think for students, it also means that they really get a very good opportunity to actually test a lot of different practices. They can work in a small firm, in a big firm. They can work in a landscape-focused firm versus a housing one. They can work locally. They can work internationally. And by the time they graduate, they know what suits them best. And the first job they get upon graduation is something that they've tested before. And most of our students actually have that job lined up before they finish their studies. They know which firm they're going back to, and the firm is waiting for them. So These places all contribute to the quality of education that the students get between Rome, between Cambridge, and all of these co-op placements regionally and internationally. They really make Waterloo architecture what it is. Finally, I'll just say a few words about the people, because I think the education is only ever as good as all the people that contribute to it. And certainly at Waterloo Architecture, we feel that the students, the staff, and faculty all form equal part of this educational project that we all participate in. So students are fantastic, they're amazing. They also bring lots of idea and energy to the School of Architecture. They form a lot of initiatives. So here's just a few of those. Peer Support Forum Lab, Graduate Association, Undergraduate Association, but also GALT, which is a student-run publication that started just at the school, moved to Canada, is now sort of international. They invite submissions from everyone. From all students of architecture across North America and beyond. Bridge Waterloo Architecture is a storefront that students have on Main Street, so outside of the School of Architecture, where they do a lot of community engagement. It's completely student-run. The directorship changes from year to year from grad students. Sometimes they will organize events for the community, run bake sales, or do different things in collaboration with the community. And currently, actually, they also have a collaboration with Idea Exchange, which is the Cambridge Library and Galleries network, where they're curating a series of exhibitions, so putting calls out for artists and architects to participate on an exhibition this year that is themes around landmarks. So very active student body. All of the students live within sort of a 5-10 walking distance from the School of Architecture. And really, this is their home away from home. And really, this is their community, and they participate in this community. They also, their projects will radiate beyond Galt and Cambridge. They build installations in Toronto. They participate in projects here. I'm showing at the Royal Ontario Museum, Gardiner Museum, as part of the Nuit Blanche in Toronto, or as the winter stations that you see, that this was a fish that was built by a group of our students recently. So students are really outstanding. Their work is being recognized in competitions, in projects. They win awards in illustrations as part of the Canadian Council Prix de Rome for emerging practitioners. And we're really proud of the quality of the work that the students are really producing and the energy that they're always bringing to the school. Likewise, we have a really strong faculty that are engaged in research that's super diverse. And this is something that is then communicated to the students, that will range from architecture in the north to landscape, urbanism, installation, steel technology, amphibious architecture, forensics architecture, architecture of the Holocaust, architectural history. All of this is represented with the faculty members at the School of Architecture. And these are your teachers, and these are the people that you can do research projects with as well. So likewise, there's a really incredible record of faculty accomplishment, one of which is the fact that we've been representing Canada, one of the most important architectural exhibitions worldwide, the Venice Biennale, and many times as at the Canadian Pavilion, but also in different places, whether in the Central Pavilion or the Arsenale. And so the life at the school is also something that we really care for, and then we organize events where we will invite employers to come and meet you. So Path to Practice is the biannual event that we're running for students at the school. We have lecture series, symposium, exhibitions. We have our very own gallery. So you're seeing here, Design at Riverside Gallery, and outstanding staff that is here to support you, whether in the workshop, as you learn to use all of these tools, or in your academic progression. The office staff is there for you with ACM, architecture, computing, and media, with anything in terms of photography, computing, etc. And the staff really feels like they're there for, I mean, we're all there for you, faculty and staff. We're here to support students throughout your education. So this is one of the last image with sort of a moment in studio life. Students, sort of chatting and smiling. So we like to think that our students are happy at Waterloo Architecture, and because we're really here for the students. Students come first. So some of the summary of this presentation: design really starts from day one, and it's the foundation of the program, and we have we're committed to your success through the different stages of the complexity of the projects in design. Cultural history, Rome, co-op. These are all sort of strong characteristics of Waterloo architecture. But I think really the commitment that architectural education is really a project that involves students, faculty, and staff in equal measure, and then we'll put everything in place to make sure that you're able to complete. So we're here to support you through the program. It's not always easy. In fact, it's quite a rigorous and challenging program. There will be hard times, but then the idea is that once you get through the selection process and are admitted into the program, we make sure that you're supported every step of the way. Even when it gets hard, we're there to support you to any kind of academic or personal issues that you might encounter. The standard is excellence. The questions are open. So when I was mentioning that this is really about living a creative life, these are, really open-ended questions. It's not the same thing as, sometimes, mathematical questions where there's only one right answer. There are a lot of possible answers. And this is something that is important to know if you want to come to architecture, because you have to be able to sort of deal with this, not uncertainty, but to an extent, the fact that if there's a team of 5 student instructors, they may all tell you different things, because in the end, there's so many different solutions to what make a good public space. And then you have to be able to juggle all of this and make your decision in terms of what makes sense for your project. So the work is really exploratory. It's very innovative as well and unconventional. And the final thing is that there are really no gaps between education and practice. Co-op, you go really back and forth between work terms and academic terms. And there are also no gaps between the school and the community. It's not really us and them. It's very much we, the School of Architecture in Cambridge at the University of Waterloo. Admissions process, and this slide is there to just give you the kind of key moments in terms of when things are due for Ontario University applicants versus non-Ontario high school applications, deadlines for information, admissions, interview, which are just really now being emailed out to applicants for this year. And next year, the deadlines will be very much looking somewhat similar to these ones. But for those applicants from grade 12 this year who have already been offered an interview, there's another small presentation that actually really walks through every step of that interview that you should consult, and it's available also on the website. So take a look, because it will tell you a bit more about the process in terms of preparing the portfolio, what the interview might be like, and also the précis. We hold our admissions week late in April and aim to send all offers by May 1st. So just to give you sort of a snapshot, we get some 1,100, 1,200 applicants from every year. Some 450 of those are called in for an interview. And then based on the quality of the portfolio, we choose top applicants, and then the précis determines out of these who pass the précis, and then this is how we make the final cut for the class. And then once you're in, and we want you to succeed. So look at this other presentation for the portfolio, but in maybe just a few words, we want to know more about you. That becomes our window to understand how are you being creative. So really show us your world, show us our world through your eyes, and look at the presentation that Rick Andrighetti is also been posting, so you get more information about some of this and some of this process. Questions? Please reach out to Donna Wilcott. She's the fantastic undergraduate student services coordinator. You can email her. She'll answer any questions that you have. But also make sure that you follow us. We would have loved to welcome you at the school today. But failing that, we would like to point you to our Instagram posts. We'll be running stories. We also will have presentations. There also will be links to our Flickr, some Flickr links that will take you to snapshots into student life, but also student projects. And I hope that through all of that, you're going to get a good sense of what Waterloo Architecture is all about. And I do hope to see many of you in September or at the next open house. Thank you.